Oh, the weather outside is frightful, but the fire is so delightful. And since we've no place to go, make it so, make it so, make it so. Man, it doesn't show signs of stopping. And I brought me some tea Earl Grey hot. The lights are turned way down low. Make it so, make it so, make it so. When we finally kiss goodnight. How I hate going out in the storm. But if you...
Really?
Shut up, Wesley! All the way home, I'll be...
warm. Oh, the fire is slowly dying. And my dear...
We're still goodbye, then. But
as long as you love me so, make it so.
make it so. Make it so.
Alright guys, I don't do too many animal updates today since we're doing the different message, but I do want to go on and do one on our little emerald tree boa, Barry Allen here. He shed last night, and just those greens and the yellows on his stomach are popping out. Where'd he go? There he is. These guys are not super hard to find. They are somewhat common. Do kind of need some special care. Their climbers are obviously completely arboreal, but these guys are notoriously just nasty and not friendly. And this little dude is so cool. So, he's always kind of fun to show just because I can have an emerald tree boa crawling on me without him ever trying to strike. He's never tried once. He is just absolutely beautiful. Beautiful little snake. Good temperament. Always a good eater. And that's our buddy, Barry Allen, the Flash. Because of those right there. Alright you guys, just to keep in the Christmas spirit, we showed our beautiful green emerald tree boa, so we're going to do some red. This is our little red-eared slider. We named him Jason Garrett, because he's a little ginger with no soul. So that is Jason Garrett, our little red-eared slider, playing in his new big pond. Somewhere in here we have a painted turtle. So we're still trying to get the filter stuff situated. We have two of them running right now. One's for big turtle tank, one's for massive aquarium. That is our painted turtle right there, named him Picasso. And then somewhere in here, we do still have our Cayman. There's her tail. Try and chase her out. There she goes. So, still have her. She is doing awesome. Loving the new setup so much better than what we had before. And loving her little tank mate. We also bought a, I think it's called a black granite catfish. It's usually right down here by the intake. Yeah, there he is. It's hard to tell since he's black. But he's pretty cool. He's almost like looks like a Plecostomus from the top. So these guys get about 3 feet long. So it'll be perfect in this giant pond. A few hundred gallons in here for them to swim around in and play in. And these guys are super cool, super fast. It's supposed to be intelligent too. Like you can train them and get them to the point that you can feed them by hand, which would be kind of neat. So, but that is the update on the pond and everything we have going on with that. Go and show off Picasso too. This is our painted turtle. Beautiful little guy. And pretty friendly too. He will actually come out and eat when we feed him. He's usually pretty nice about being petted and handled. Sometimes he'll try and take a little pinch, but he is pretty cool. Alright, my cold-blooded army, hope you guys are having an awesome week so far, and that as Christmas gets closer, you guys are just absolutely excited, and that you are not stressed, and that you have peace, and that you are able to balance everything, and just really focus in and remember why we celebrate and why we do what we do. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about that today. Obviously, it's a good time to be sharing the Christmas story, and so I'm going to do that with you guys, and I'm going to put a little bit different spin on it, and look at things a little bit differently. A lot of this that I'm going to use came from my brother Frizo over in Germany, who is absolutely incredible with what he does. He goes into a bar every single year Christmas Eve. Most people go to church. This man goes to a bar, and he gives different versions of the Christmas story and does what he can to spread just Christmas joy and cheer and bring people to know and love God that normally wouldn't even hear a message. So he's absolutely awesome with that. He helped me with this, and my buddy over here, Ludger, that moved here from Germany, helped me translate as well, because there were some issues with that, but we got it handled. So thank you guys very much for your help on that. In order for us to really understand why Christmas is important, we have to understand why we celebrate it. And there's the whole, well, it's the birth of Jesus, and that's wonderful and great, but there's so much more to it than that. And so Frizo, my brother over in Germany that I was talking about, used this really cool analogy. I'm stealing it from him. And he talked about how we all deal with ants. There's ants all over the world. Doesn't matter if you're in America, or if you're in Germany, or if you're in Africa, wherever you are, there are ants. There's 11,000 to 12,500 different species of ants. And that's crazy to think about. And they're not all bad. We always try and get rid of them, but they do a lot of good. They decompose plants, they take care of ground-dwelling animals, they aerate the soil. They do have some benefit besides just ruining your picnic. So they are good for some things. God obviously had something in mind when he created them. But we don't always like them in our house. You know, we think about getting them in our house and we don't come home and stay on the opposite side, and we put up little signs that say, hey, be careful, don't go here because the sink is right there and you're going to drown, buddy. I don't want you to get hurt, but if you guys stay over here, you'll be okay. Like, we don't do that stuff. And we don't do it for multiple reasons, but the main one is that because we don't speak their language. We're humans and they're ants. We're huge and they're tiny. And even if we could communicate with them and speak with them, they'd probably be so scared of us that they would never listen. And so in order for us to be able to really effectively reach them and communicate with them, we would have to shrink ourselves down to their size and put ourselves on their level, learn to speak their language, walk among them, be with them, influence their lives, and really become one of them. Go through what they go through their struggles, live life with them every single day. And we can't do that. But that's the exact reason that we have Jesus. Because just like the ants don't understand what we're doing, God is so massive and so huge that there's that disconnect. That's kind of like when you have a massive boss of your company come in, everybody gets stressed and everybody gets worried. There's that disconnect where they don't understand what happens on the front lines. And so God is the big boss. And he understands everything, obviously. But there's that big disconnect where we are so far away, so huge and so massive and does everything. And so just like with us versus the ants, there's that big disconnect. And so because of that, he gave us Jesus to come down here and to be one of us, to go through what we went through, to show us that it'll be okay, and to be God here on earth. So with that being said, I'm going to jump into the Christmas story starting in Luke. Luke 2, verse 9 starts out and it says, an angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, do not be afraid. And I'm going to stop right there, man. You know, it's an angel of God. Of all the things in life to be happy about seeing, you would think an angel would be one of them. And they appeared to the shepherds, and they were terrified of them. And I start thinking about in my life, everything I run from, everything that I'm scared of. And I'm pretty sure with all the stupid stuff I do on a daily basis, if an angel showed up at my job, it would scare me. He'd have to tell me not to be afraid. And we live with this fear constantly in our lives. We don't know what to expect. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's coming. But the words of the angel were perfect. Don't be afraid. Don't fear. Moving on to 11, it says, today in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is Christ the Lord. And the key thing in that is that he was born. He wasn't beamed down to earth like a bad sci-fi movie. He came and he was born as a human. He grew up as a human. He was a kid just like we were. He was a teenager just like we were, going through that awkward stage and the acne and the voice cracking and all the awkward hormone stuff. Jesus went through it just like we did. But because he went through that, he's on our level. And he's there for us. We can communicate with him. We have that one-on-one. We have him showing us how to live our lives. Because he went through it. And so it's not like somebody sitting back and saying, you should do this and this. He went through it. He lived it. And he made it through, and so can we. 12 says, this is a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in clothes lying in a manger. When we look at nativity scenes, we always see the manger, and it's this big wooden trough. And they put a bunch of blankets in there and some hay, and oh, look, it looks kind of comfortable. But the truth is, that's not really how it was. Back then, they didn't make them out of wood. They made them out of stone. And so it was cold and it was hard, and they would kind of carve it out and make a little ditch inside to put food and water in. And so a cold, nasty stone is what God came to this earth to sleep in. And the way barns were set up back then, they were bi-level. So you'd have your animals up on the top level, and then on the lower level, you would have your feeding troughs. And the way that it was set up like that is so that you could sweep off all the poop and all the waste and all the extra stuff down to the lower level and then clean it up. So not only was Jesus put as a baby into a stone manger, he was born and sleeping down on a level where all the poop goes, all the nasty stuff gets washed out. And that's where our King of Kings came in. You know, being just nasty and dirty and low down. And we don't really understand what that looks like. We don't understand what that means now. But it'd be kind of like somebody going to like an auto garage and having a baby there. And just all the oil and the grease and the nasty stuff all around, and not even being able to put the baby in a dog bed, putting the baby in like an oil drip pan that's just disgusting and dirty. Doesn't matter how many blankets you put in there, you're not going to church that up, you're not cleaning that up, it's nasty. And the King of Kings came to our world in that environment. And so this next part is awesome. When the angels left, the shepherds said to one another, let's go to Bethlehem and see what has happened. So they hurried off, and they found Mary, Joseph, and the baby who was lying in the manger. Now, the cool part about this is that the shepherds came first. The shepherds saw baby Jesus first. And we may not really think about it as being a big deal, because in all the nativity scenes, they're dressed up nicely, they look clean, they look great. But what we don't see is that the shepherds were the lowest of the low. They were like one step above criminals. They were nasty. They were pretty much homeless. They slept in the fields with their animals. They didn't have showers. They didn't really brush their teeth. They didn't have access to clean clothes. A lot of them didn't have shoes. And so they're walking around in these nasty, dirty, muddy fields where their animals are going to the bathroom and they're covered in it. And that's a shepherd. But that's who got to see Jesus first. And when we look at things like that, and we look at who God came for and who Jesus came for and who God sent him for, you know, the first people he didn't show up to were kings and leaders and generals and the rabbis and all these great people. He showed up to the nastiest, the dirtiest, the lowest of the low, were who he revealed himself to first. And that's so beautiful, because we look at ourselves, and I know I'm far from a king and anything close to that. I wouldn't consider myself lowest of the low, but I'm not great. But Jesus came for me. And that's so beautiful. He came for you guys too. And the ones that meant the most to him, the ones he wanted to see first and have the biggest impact, were the ones that society said, nah, that's nasty, you shouldn't be there. And Jesus said, I love you, I want you there first. And that's pretty darn cool. We're going to skip over to Matthew now and look at chapter 2, verse 7. This is Herod talking to the three wise men, or the three kings. And he said that he came to them and told them to go to Bethlehem and to make a search for the child and to report back to him so that he can go and worship him. And so there's a big backstory on this. Herod didn't want to worship Jesus. He wanted to kill him. And so that's a story for a different day. But Herod sent out his three wise men to go and find him. And this is kind of where we're going to end this one today. Verses 11 and 12 says that, and coming in the house, they saw the child who was with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. They opened their treasures and presented him the gifts of gold, incense, and myrrh. And some will say frankincense instead of incense. But these gifts are what we really need to focus on. Gold was a precious metal. It still is back then, or still is today like it was back then, even more so back then, because they couldn't go and strip mine and do all this stuff to find it. They were just out there digging by hand. And so that was a gift for a king and for a ruler. The frankincense was a gift for deity, or gods and rabbis and leaders within the church. And the third gift, and what we really have to focus on, is the myrrh. Myrrh was used as an anointing oil that they would anoint dead people with. And so there's this newborn baby sitting there with his mother and father. And someone says, here's a gift for a king. And someone says, here's a gift for a god and for a leader. And someone says, here's a gift for a dead body. And so you start to think about these things. And as Mary and Joseph watched their son grow up to know what was going to happen and what was going to come, and to see him go through the changes and go through life and never know when that time was going to come. And that's heartbreaking to think about, but they did it. And what's even more crazy to think about is the fact that Jesus knew too. He knew what he was here to do. He knew why he was here to serve. And he knew what the end result was going to be. And at any point in time, he could have left. At any point, he could have had his disciples fight for him. He could have had anything done that he wanted to. He was God here in earth. He could have got away. But he loved us so much that he said, you know what, I'm going to stay and I'm going to take this because I love you all so much. And so what we have is Jesus coming to earth and being put on our level and being God here in flesh, being God's love walking around. And sometimes, especially with the holidays, we lose sight of that. We get so stressed out and so just bogged down with everything. But at the end of the day, somebody loved us so much to come to earth, to go through all the junk that we went through instead of growing up in a palace, instead of having this great life. He came to the shepherds and the lowest of the low and the nastiest people first. And he said, I love you all just the same. And the truth is, he loves us all the same, just as well. And he died for us all the same. It's an awesome thing. So as you guys get into Christmas and you start thinking more and more about it, I'd encourage you guys to really think about that and think about the sacrifices that were made for you, the gift, this ultimate gift that was given to you that nobody can ever take away from you. It was a gift that was given because you were so loved and so cherished that God wanted to shrink himself down to our size, to be on our level, to talk with us and come and say, I love you. Don't go over here because that's a sink and you're going to drown, and don't go over here and do this because you're going to get in trouble. But I love you, little buddy. That's what Jesus did for us. Hope you all have a very merry and blessed Christmas. If there's ever anything I can do for you, please don't hesitate to ever ask or reach out. I'm always here for you guys. I love you very much. May you be blessed to be blessing those around you, and I will catch y'all next time.